Hey, welcome to Imagine BL Story. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really encourages my work and helps me bring you more stories. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's story. So imagine you're lost in a strange city, like completely, hopelessly lost. You took this trip to escape your meaningless life back home, and now you can't even find your way back to your hostel. And then something totally fairy tale happens. You meet a prince. Yes, like literally a whole-ass prince. Sexy, ridiculously good-looking, and so goofy it catches you completely off guard. The kind of alpha presence that makes you, as an Omega, feel things you definitely shouldn't be feeling for a stranger. My name is Ian Graham, and this is the most unbelievable thing that ever happened to me. Now, like every fairy tale, you'd expect a happy ending, right? Well, my reality isn't like that. 6 months ago, I was nobody. Just another Omega working double shifts at a dingy coffee shop in Seattle, serving overpriced lattes to people who didn't see me. My apartment was the size of a shoebox. My bank account was perpetually in the red, and my love life? Let's just say Grindr wasn't exactly delivering Prince Charming to my doorstep. 26 years old, and I felt ancient, tired. Like life was this endless loop of wake up, work, sleep, repeat. My mom called it quarter-life crisis. I called it suffocating. So when my credit card had exactly enough room for one last hurrah before maxing out, I did something completely insane. I booked a ticket to Europe. Just picked a random city I couldn't even pronounce properly. Lysander, in the tiny kingdom of Valdoria. 3 weeks of backpacking through a place where nobody knew me, where I could pretend to be someone else, someone whose life had meaning. The flight was cramped and uncomfortable, and I arrived in Lysander exhausted, jet-lagged, and already regretting my impulsive decision. The hostel I'd booked looked nothing like the photos online. The neighborhood was sketchy, and my phone's GPS kept glitching because apparently international data plans are a scam. That's how I ended up completely lost on my second day, wandering through winding cobblestone streets that all looked identical, with my phone dead and my sense of direction absolutely useless. The old quarter of Lysander was like stepping into a storybook. Medieval buildings with flower boxes, tiny cafes with outdoor seating, street musicians playing instruments I couldn't name. It would have been magical if I wasn't so thoroughly lost and starting to panic. I turned down another narrow alley, hoping it would lead back to something I recognized. And that's when I collided with him. Not just bumped into. Full-on crashed into a wall of solid muscle that sent me stumbling backward, my backpack swinging wildly. Whoa, easy there. Strong hands caught my arms, steadying me, and I looked up into the most ridiculously beautiful face I'd ever seen. Sharp jawline, warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners, and this smile that was somehow both charming and completely goofy. He was tall, probably 6'2", with dark hair that looked artfully messy in that way that probably took effort. He wore expensive-looking casual clothes, dark jeans and a fitted Henley that showed off broad shoulders, and there was this energy about him that made my Omega instincts sit up and take notice. Alpha. Definitely alpha. Sorry, I stammered, trying to step back. But his hands were still on my arms, warm even through my jacket. I wasn't looking where I was going. Clearly. His smile widened, and there was mischief in those eyes. You look lost. I'm not lost. I'm just taking the scenic route. He laughed, actually laughed, and the sound did something weird to my chest. The scenic route through the service alley behind the fish market? Bold choice. I glanced around and realized he was right. The alley smelled vaguely of fish and garbage. Fantastic. Okay, fine. I'm lost. My phone died and everything looks the same and I have no idea how to get back to my hostel. Which hostel? I told him and he winced. That's clear across the city. You really are lost. He seemed to consider something. Then that goofy smile returned. Tell you what, I'm heading that direction anyway. I'll walk you back. Every instinct I had screamed stranger danger. This was exactly how horror movies started. But there was something about him, something genuine in his expression. And honestly, I was desperate. You don't have to do that. I know, but I want to. He released my arms and stepped back, giving me space. Come on. I'll show you the actual scenic route. The one that doesn't smell like fish. That's how I ended up spending the afternoon with a stranger whose name I didn't even know yet. Walking through the most beautiful parts of Lysander while he pointed out landmarks and told terrible jokes that somehow made me laugh anyway. He was easy to talk to. Funny and self-deprecating in a way that felt genuine, not like he was fishing for compliments. He asked about me, actually seemed interested when I talked about my boring life back home, and didn't judge when I admitted I'd basically fled the country on a whim. Sometimes you need to escape, he said as we crossed a bridge over the river that split the city. Sometimes you need to get lost to figure out where you're supposed to be. That's very philosophical for a tour guide. I'm more than just a pretty face, you know? He winked, and I felt heat creep into my cheeks. We stopped at a small cafe tucked into a quiet square, and he insisted on buying me coffee. Real coffee, not the overpriced corporate stuff I served back home. It was rich and perfect, and I savored every sip while he told me about Lysander's history, about the royal family that still technically ruled the country, about festivals and traditions that sounded like something from a different era. You really love this place, I observed. It's home. Something flickered in his expression, there and gone too quickly to interpret. Even when it's complicated, it's still home. I wanted to ask what he meant by complicated, but my phone chose that moment to buzz back to life, and I realized it was getting late. The hostel had a curfew, and I needed to check in. I should go, I said reluctantly. Right? Of course. He stood, and we walked the last few blocks in comfortable silence. When we reached the hostel, I turned to thank him, and the words caught in my throat. The afternoon sun hit his face just right, highlighting the sharp angles of his features, and I realized I didn't want this to end. Didn't want to go back to being alone in a strange city. Tomorrow, he said before I could speak. Let me show you more of the city tomorrow. The parts tourists never see. I don't even know your name. That goofy smile returned, and he extended his hand. Alex. I took it, felt the warmth of his palm against mine. Ian. Well, Ian, what do you say? Want to get lost with me tomorrow? I should have said no. Should have remembered that vacation romances never last. That I'd be going home in a few weeks. That letting myself feel anything for this beautiful stranger was asking for heartbreak. Instead, I smiled. Yeah, I'd like that. He squeezed my hand once before releasing it, and I watched him walk away, disappearing into the evening crowd. I had no idea that the man I just met, the man who made terrible jokes and bought me coffee and walked me home like it was no big deal, was actually Prince Alexander of Valdoria. Third in line to the throne, alpha heir to one of Europe's oldest royal families, and absolutely, completely off-limits to someone like me. I had no idea that falling for him would set off a chain of events that would destroy everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and what it means to fight for your happiness. I had no idea that fairy tales don't exist in real life, and princes don't actually end up with poor Omegas from Seattle. But I was about to learn. The next 3 weeks were the happiest of my life. That should have been my first warning sign. Alex met me every day outside the hostel, always with that same goofy smile, always ready with some new adventure. We explored hidden gardens and climbed ancient towers and ate street food that probably violated every health code but tasted incredible. He showed me Lysander through his eyes, and everything seemed brighter, more vibrant, more alive. He never told me he was a prince. I found out by accident. We were 2 weeks into whatever this was, this beautiful bubble we'd created, sitting on the steps of the old cathedral sharing gelato, when a group of tourists walked past. One of them stopped dead, stared at Alex, then frantically started whispering to her friends while pulling out her phone. Is that Prince Alexander? Oh my God. It is. Should we ask for a photo? The blood drained from my face. I turned to Alex, waiting for him to laugh it off, to tell them they were mistaken. Instead, he went very still. His jaw tightened, and he stood abruptly. We should go. Alex. Not here. He grabbed my hand and pulled me up, leading me away from the gathering crowd, around corners and through passages until we ended up in a small park, empty except for an elderly woman feeding pigeons. Tell me they were joking, I said, even though I already knew the answer. All the pieces were clicking into place. The way people sometimes did double takes when they saw him, the expensive clothes he wore so casually, the way he always seemed to know exactly where to go to avoid crowds. Alex ran a hand through his hair, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked uncertain, vulnerable. I should have told you from the beginning. I didn't know how. So it's true? You're actually a prince. Third in line, technically, behind my older sister and brother. But yes, I laughed, and it came out bitter. Of course you are. Because my life wasn't already enough of a mess. Ian. No, this is perfect, actually. I come here to escape my meaningless existence, and I end up falling for someone so completely out of my league that it's actually funny. I pressed my palms against my eyes, trying to hold back the panic rising in my chest. What were you thinking? Were you just slumming it? Wanted to see how the other half lives? It wasn't like that. His voice was rough, urgent. That first day when I saw you, so completely lost and trying to pretend you weren't, you looked at me like I was just me. Not the prince. Not the title. Just Alex. Do you have any idea how rare that is? So this was what? A vacation from reality for you. It was real. He grabbed my shoulders, making me look at him. Ian, it's the most real thing in my life. But it doesn't matter, does it? I could feel tears burning in my eyes and hated myself for it. Because in a week I go home and you stay here and this, whatever this is, it ends. It doesn't have to. Yes, it does. You're a prince, Alex. I'm nobody. I work in a coffee shop. I can barely pay rent. Your life is castles and state dinners and designer clothes, and mine is not that. We live in different worlds. Then come live in mine. The words hung between us, impossible and tempting. What? Stay. In Lysander. With me. His hands slid down to grip mine, desperate and warm. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I've never felt this way about anyone. And I don't want to lose you because of something as stupid as geography. You're insane. Probably. That goofy smile flickered across his face. But I'm serious. Stay with me. We'll figure it out. I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to say yes so badly it hurt. But I'd spent my whole life being practical, being responsible, being the person who made sensible choices. I need time to think. The hope in his eyes dimmed, but he nodded. Okay, I understand. He walked me back to the hostel in silence, and when we reached the door, he pulled me into a hug that felt like goodbye. For what it's worth, he murmured against my hair. You're not nobody. You're everything. Then he left, and I spent the night staring at the ceiling, torn between the life I knew and the life I wanted. I stayed. Of course I stayed. What else was I supposed to do? Go back to Seattle and spend the rest of my life wondering what if? Alex was overjoyed. He kissed me in the park where we'd had our first fight, right there in front of everyone, and I didn't care who saw. Didn't care that people were already pulling out phones, that by tomorrow we'd probably be all over social media. I was in love. It made me stupid. The first few weeks were a dream. Alex helped me find an apartment, nothing fancy but infinitely better than my Seattle shoebox, in a quiet neighborhood where I could pretend to be normal. He taught me Valdorian, laughed when I butchered the pronunciation, kissed me until I forgot what we were supposed to be practicing. We existed in this perfect bubble where the outside world couldn't touch us. Then reality came crashing in. The family wants to meet you, Alex said one morning over breakfast. I nearly choked on my coffee. What? My parents. My siblings. They want to meet the Omega their son has been sneaking around with. He tried to make it sound casual, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. That sounds like a terrible idea. It'll be fine. They'll love you. They absolutely did not love me. The palace was everything I'd imagined and worse. Gilded halls and priceless artwork and servants everywhere, silent and efficient. I felt like an imposter in my borrowed suit, like everyone could tell I didn't belong. The king and queen were polite but cold. Alex's older sister, Crown Princess Catherine, barely acknowledged my existence. But it was his brother, Prince Stephen, who made his feelings crystal clear. So you're the American. Stephen looked me up and down like I was something unpleasant he'd stepped in. Alex always did have interesting taste. Stephen, Alex warned. What? I'm just making conversation. Stephen's smile was all teeth, no warmth. Tell me, Ian, what exactly do you do, besides occupy my brother's time? I'm looking for work, I said evenly, refusing to let him see how much his words stung. How enterprising. And what kind of work does an Omega with no connections, no education, and no prospects typically find in Valdoria? That's enough. Alex stepped between us, his alpha presence suddenly overwhelming. Ian is my guest. You will treat him with respect. Or what? Stephen's eyes flashed. You'll run crying to father? We both know how that conversation will go. The spare can have his fun, but when it comes time to choose a proper mate, someone suitable. I said enough. The room fell silent. Even the servants seemed to freeze. Alex's scent had gone sharp with anger, and my Omega instincts screamed at me to submit, to back down, even though the anger wasn't directed at me. The queen cleared her throat delicately. Perhaps we should discuss this in private. Ian, dear, why don't you wait in the east drawing room? Someone will fetch you when we're finished. I wanted to argue, wanted to stand beside Alex and face this together. but the dismissal in her tone made it clear I had no choice. A servant escorted me to a room that was probably worth more than everything I'd ever owned. And I sat on an antique chair, listening to muffled voices rise and fall beyond the heavy doors. An hour passed, then two. When Alex finally came to get me, he looked exhausted, defeated. How bad? I asked. They want me to end it. His voice was hollow. Say you're a distraction, that I'm embarrassing the family. Maybe they're right. Don't. He pulled me close, buried his face in my neck. Don't say that. I don't care what they think. I choose you. But choosing me came with a price. Over the next few months, I watched Alex slowly lose pieces of himself. His family made him attend endless functions alone, made it clear I wasn't welcome at official events. The media, when they bothered to mention me at all, were cruel. Gold digger, opportunist, the Omega who seduced a prince. Alex defended me publicly, but privately I could see it wearing on him. The constant battles with his family. The way courtiers and advisors looked through me like I was invisible. The knowledge that by being with me, he was damaging the one thing he'd been raised to protect. The monarchy. We should take a break, I said one night after a particularly brutal society column had torn me apart. No, Alex, this isn't working. Your family hates me. The country hates me. Every day we're together makes it worse for you. I don't care. But his voice lacked conviction. You should. I cupped his face, forced him to look at me. I love you. I love you so much that I can't watch you destroy yourself for me. Then don't leave. Stay and fight with me. I'm tired of fighting. And I was tired of being the villain in everyone else's story. Tired of feeling like I was stealing something that didn't belong to me. Maybe Steven was right. Maybe I'm just not suitable. To hell with suitable. Alex kissed me desperately. I don't want suitable. I want you. So I stayed. Because I was weak. Because I loved him. Because I still believed, foolishly, that love could be enough. Then Queen Eleanor died. She'd been sick, though the family kept it quiet. Cancer, Alex told me later, voice hollow with grief. She'd been fighting it for years. The funeral was a state affair. I watched from the crowd, not permitted to sit with the family, as Alex stood stone-faced beside his father and siblings. He looked so alone up there, so lost, and I wanted nothing more than to go to him. The wake was at the palace. I wasn't invited, obviously, but Alex called me late that night, drunk and broken. Come over, please. I need you. I should have said no. The palace was crawling with family and dignitaries, the last place I should be. But I heard the desperation in his voice and couldn't refuse. Alex met me at a side entrance, pulled me through dark corridors to his private chambers. We made love desperately, clinging to each other like drowning men, and afterward he fell asleep with his head on my chest. I was nearly asleep myself when the door burst open. King Henrik stood in the doorway, flanked by guards. His face was cold with fury. Get dressed, he said quietly. Both of you. Now. Alex woke with a start, realized what was happening, and moved to shield me. Father, I said get dressed. We're going to have a conversation. A long overdue one. What followed was the worst night of my life. The king laid it all out with brutal efficiency. Alex was now second in line to the throne with Eleanor gone. His behavior reflected on the crown. His relationship with me was unacceptable, untenable, and would end immediately. You have two choices, Henrik said, looking at Alex but speaking to both of us. End this relationship voluntarily, or I will make both your lives a living hell. I will strip Ian of his visa, have him deported, make sure he never works in Valdoria again. And you, my son, will watch the man you claim to love suffer because of your selfishness. You can't do this, Alex said, but there was no conviction in it. I can. I will. The only question is how much pain you want to cause him on your way out. I felt numb. This was always how it was going to end. Wasn't it? I'd been deluding myself, playing dress-up in a world that was never meant for people like me. Alex, I said softly, it's okay. It's not okay. He turned to me, and there were tears in his eyes. Ian, don't give up. We can fight this. We can. We can't. I stood, borrowed one of his shirts because I couldn't find my own. Your father is right. I never should have stayed. This was always going to end badly. Ian, please. I love you. I kissed him one last time, tasted salt from both our tears. But love isn't enough. It never was. I walked out of that palace and out of Alex's life. Or at least I tried to. The first month after leaving Alex was hell. I moved back to my tiny apartment, tried to find work, tried to pretend my heart wasn't shattered into a million pieces. Alex called, texted, showed up at my door at 2 in the morning, begging me to reconsider. But I held firm because staying would only make things worse. For both of us. Then the money started appearing. Deposits in my account. Large ones. With no explanation. I called Alex immediately. Stop sending me money. You need to live. Let me help. I don't want your guilt payments. I want to move on with my life. Ian. No. We're done, Alex. Accept it. I sent the money back. All of it. 2 weeks later, I found a job at a high-end restaurant. Nothing glamorous, just waiting tables. But it paid better than the coffee shop ever did. I threw myself into work, into building a life that didn't revolve around a prince I couldn't have. I almost convinced myself I was okay. Then Steven showed up at the restaurant. He came in during the dinner rush, sat in my section, and smiled that predatory smile I'd learned to hate. Ian. What a surprise. Your Highness. I kept my voice neutral, professional. Can I get you something to drink? Sit. It wasn't a request. I glanced around. My manager was watching, frowning. I'm working. Sit. Steven repeated. Or I'll make a scene and you'll lose another job. Your choice. I sat, heart pounding. I'm going to make you an offer, Steven said, swirling his wine. A very generous one. You're going to listen carefully. I'm not interested. You haven't heard it yet. He leaned forward. 5 million euros. Transferred to any account you want, anywhere in the world. In exchange, you disappear. Leave Valdoria. Leave Alex alone. Sign an NDA agreeing to never speak about your relationship. Never contact him again. Never profit from his name. The number was staggering. Life-changing. With that kind of money, I could go anywhere, do anything. Never worry about rent or food or working double shifts again. No. Steven's smile sharpened. I thought you might say that. So let me tell you what happens if you refuse. That job you just got? Gone by tomorrow. Your apartment? The landlord will suddenly discover violations that require your immediate eviction. Your visa? Surprisingly difficult to renew. I can make your life in Valdoria impossible, Ian. I can make sure every door closes in your face. Every opportunity vanishes. You'll have nothing. Be nothing. I already am nothing. You made sure of that. True. But you could be nothing somewhere else. Somewhere comfortable. Somewhere far away from my brother. Why do you care so much? Alex isn't even heir anymore. Catherine is going to be queen. Something dark flashed in Steven's eyes. My brother is weak. Always has been. Distracted by his feelings, by you. But when our father dies, Catherine will need allies. Strong ones. Alex mooning over his lost love is a liability we can't afford. So this is about power. This is about protecting what's ours. You're not one of us, Ian. You never will be. Take the money. Start over somewhere else. Find someone appropriate to your station. I stood, legs shaking with rage. I don't want your money, and I don't care about your threats. Do your worst. Steven's expression went cold. I will. And when I'm done destroying you, when you're sleeping on the streets with nothing and no one, remember that I offered you a way out. He left €100 note on the table and walked out. I lasted another 3 weeks. Steven kept his promises. I lost the restaurant job. My landlord evicted me, citing bogus violations. My visa renewal was suddenly tangled in red tape. I couch-surfed with the few friends I'd made, watched my savings dwindle to nothing, and felt myself breaking under the pressure. I didn't tell Alex. Couldn't bear to drag him back into this mess, to make him choose between his family and me again. Better to suffer alone than watch him tear himself apart. Then I got pregnant. The clinic confirmed it on a Tuesday, 8 weeks along. I sat in that sterile room, staring at the ultrasound images, and felt my entire world shift. I'd been on suppressants. We'd been careful, but apparently life had other plans. I had to tell Alex. Had to. This changed everything. But when I called, his number was disconnected. When I went to the palace, security turned me away before I even reached the gates. I tried emailing, texting, even social media. Nothing went through. Steven had cut me off completely. Panic set in. I was pregnant, homeless, and alone in a foreign country. I had no job, no money, and no way to contact the father of my child. I did the only thing I could think of. I went to the media. The story exploded. Omega claims prince's child. Royal family silent on pregnancy allegations. Is this the scandal that brings down the monarchy? I thought it would force them to acknowledge me, to help. Instead, it made everything worse. The palace released a statement calling my claims baseless and opportunistic. DNA tests were impossible without cooperation, they said. I was clearly a troubled individual seeking attention and financial gain. They made me look like a liar, a gold digger. Exactly what everyone had always believed. The media turned vicious. Old photos surfaced, photoshopped and taken out of context. Ex-boyfriends I'd never had sold fabricated stories. My entire life was torn apart and reassembled into something ugly and false. I couldn't leave my temporary accommodation without cameras in my face. Strangers screamed at me in the street. Someone threw a drink at me outside a clinic. The stress was unbearable, and I was terrified for my baby. Then, 3 months into my pregnancy, Alex called. Is it true? His voice was raw, broken. Ian, is it true? Where have you been? Tears streamed down my face. I've been trying to reach you for months. Stephen blocked everything. Said you were harassing us for money. I didn't know about the baby. I swear I didn't know. It's yours. Alex, I know they don't believe me, but it's yours. I know. He was crying too. God, Ian, I'm so sorry. I should have protected you. Should have fought harder. What do we do now? There was a long pause. When Alex spoke again, his voice had changed. Gone hollow. There's going to be a paternity test. Once the baby is born. My father is insisting. Okay, good. That proves I'm telling the truth. Ian, there's more. If the baby is mine, if the test confirms it, my father wants custody. The world stopped. What? He'll petition the courts. Claim you're unfit. Use every resource at his disposal to take our child from you. He can't do that. He's the king. He can do anything. Alex's voice cracked. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I tried to fight him on this. Tried to make him see reason. But he won't budge. He says a royal child belongs with the royal family, not with some Omega who sold stories to tabloids. I sold those stories because you disappeared, because I was alone and pregnant and terrified. I know. I believe you. But my father doesn't care about reasons. He cares about protecting the crown, and that means protecting his grandchild from you. I hung up, sat on the floor of my tiny room and sobbed until I couldn't breathe. They were going to take my baby, the only good thing to come from this nightmare, and they were going to steal it from me, unless I ran. The decision came surprisingly easily. I couldn't fight the monarchy, couldn't win in their courts with their judges and their unlimited resources. But I could disappear. I maxed out what little remained on my credit cards, bought a one-way ticket to Scotland under a fake name, and left everything behind. My few possessions, my friends, any chance of ever seeing Alex again. I sent him one last message. I'm keeping our baby, protecting them. Don't look for me. Then I threw my phone in the river and disappeared. Edinburgh became my sanctuary and my prison. I rented a tiny flat in Leith under a fake name, paid in cash, and avoided cameras whenever possible. I dyed my hair, changed my style, worked under the table at a pub where nobody asked questions. My daughter, Lily, was born on a cold January morning. No family present, no partner to hold my hand. Just me, a midwife who didn't speak much English, and the overwhelming terror that somehow, despite all my precautions, they'd find us. But they didn't. 3 years passed. I watched Lily grow, saw Alex's eyes looking back at me from her tiny face, and tried not to think about what we'd lost, what I'd stolen from her by running. She deserved to know her father, deserved the opportunities that came with being a princess, even an illegitimate one. But more than that, she deserved safety, deserved a parent who was present, who loved her unconditionally, who didn't see her as a political pawn. I gave her that, even if it meant living in the shadows. The pub where I worked was rough around the edges, but the owner, Margaret, was kind. She knew I was running from something, never pushed for details, paid me fairly and always slipped extra in my paycheck when she knew I was struggling. You're a good mom, she said once, watching me call to check on Lily during my break. That girl's lucky to have you. I didn't feel lucky. I felt like a thief who'd stolen my daughter's birthright. Then, on a Tuesday that started like any other, my past walked through the pub door. Not Alex. Someone worse. Detective Inspector Celine Bartlett was investigating financial crimes connected to the Valdorian royal family. Money laundering, embezzlement, offshore accounts. She didn't say much that first visit, just ordered a whiskey, watched me work, and left a business card with 2 words. We should talk. I threw the card away. She came back the next day. And the next. Always polite, always patient, always leaving that damn card. Finally, on her 5th visit, I cracked. What do you want? To help you. She slid into a booth, gestured for me to sit. I know who you are, Ian Graham. I know about Alex, about Lily, about why you ran. My blood ran cold. I don't know what you're talking about. Please, I'm not here to judge. I'm here because I think we can help each other. She pulled out a tablet, showed me documents. Financial records, offshore accounts in Stephen's name, payments to tabloids, bribes to judges. Prince Stephen has been systematically stealing from the royal treasury for years. Millions of euros funneled into private accounts. And he's used that money to manipulate media, by influence, and destroy anyone who threatened his position. Why are you telling me this? Because you're one of his victims. And I need your testimony to take him down. I laughed bitterly. You want me to testify against a prince? Are you insane? They'll destroy me. They'll try. But with your testimony, with proof of how he sabotaged you, threatened you, cut you off from Alex, we can build a case. Not just against Stephen, but against the whole corrupt system that let him operate unchecked. And what do I get out of this besides a target on my back? Protection. A chance for Lily to know her father. And maybe, just maybe, justice. I wanted to say no. Wanted to keep hiding. Keep protecting my daughter from the chaos that came with being connected to royalty. But I was tired. Tired of running. Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of Lily asking why she didn't have a daddy like the other kids. If I do this, I said slowly, I need guarantees. Full protection for me and my daughter. No custody battles. No one takes her from me. I'll do everything in my power to ensure that. And Alex? Does he know about this investigation? Celine hesitated. Not yet, but he'll find out soon. Stephen's arrest will be very public. I need to see him first, before any of this goes public. He deserves to know about Lily from me, not from some investigator. Celine considered this, then nodded. I can arrange that, but Ian, you need to understand. Once you step back into that world, there's no going back into hiding. Are you ready for that? I thought about Lily, about the life I wanted for her. Not one of secrets and lies and constantly looking over our shoulders, but one where she could grow up knowing both her parents, where she could make her own choices about who she wanted to be. I'm ready. The safe house where they arranged the meeting was industrial and impersonal. Gray walls, basic furniture, guards stationed outside. Not exactly the romantic reunion I'd imagined during lonely nights. Not that I'd been imagining reunions. Not much anyway. Celine stood by the door. He'll be here soon. You'll have 2 hours. Use them wisely. Then she left, and I was alone with my racing thoughts and trembling hands. For years. It had been 4 years since I'd seen Alex. 4 years since I'd sent that message and disappeared. What was I supposed to say? Sorry I stole your daughter and made you think I was a monster? The door opened. Alex looked older, tired. His hair was shorter, more controlled, and he wore an expensive suit that screamed royal obligation. But his eyes, when they met mine, held the same warmth I remembered. Ian. My name came out broken, disbelieving. Hi. We stared at each other across the small room, neither moving, neither speaking, until finally Alex crossed the distance in 3 long strides and pulled me into his arms. He smelled the same, cedar and something uniquely him, and I buried my face in his shoulder and let myself break. I'm sorry, I sobbed. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what else to do. Shoo, it's okay. You're okay. His hands moved over my back, checking that I was real whole. God, Ian, I thought I'd never see you again. We held each other until the tears slowed, until breathing didn't hurt quite so much, and then we sat on the uncomfortable couch, hands clasped between us. Tell me everything, Alex said. Please, I need to understand. So I did. I told him about Stephen's threats, about being homeless, about the pregnancy and my desperate attempts to contact him, about running because I was terrified they'd take our baby. A baby? Alex whispered. We have a baby. A daughter, Lily. She's 3 now. She has your eyes. I want to meet her. Ian, please, I need to meet my daughter. You will. Promise. But first, we need to talk about what happens next. I explained about the investigation, About Celine Bartlett and the evidence against Stephen. About the choice I'd made to testify, to fight back against the system that had torn us apart. Alex listened, his expression growing darker with each revelation. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. I knew Stephen was ambitious, he finally said. I knew he resented me, but I never imagined he'd go this far. That he'd orchestrate all of this just to remove me as a threat. He said you were weak, distracted by your feelings. Maybe I was. Alex cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheek. But those feelings, what I felt for you, that was the strongest thing in my life. I should have fought harder, should have protected you better. We both made mistakes. Ian, when this comes out, when you testify, it's going to be brutal. The media will be vicious. My family, most of them will stand against you. Against us. I know. And you're still willing to do this? For Lily? For the chance to stop running? I nodded. Yes, I'm ready. Alex leaned forward, pressed his forehead to mine. Then we do this together. No more running. No more hiding. We face this as a family. Your father can go to hell. There was steel in Alex's voice now. I've spent 4 years regretting that I let him bully me into abandoning you. I won't make that mistake again. Catherine is going to be queen. She's been preparing for it her whole life. I'm just the spare, which means I get to choose my own path, and I choose you. The custody battle won't happen. I'll make sure of it. We'll get lawyers, the best ones. We'll prove that you're a good parent, that you ran out of legitimate fear, that everything that happened was because my family drove you to it. That sounds expensive. I have money. And what's the point of being a prince if I can't use it to protect the people I love? He smiled, that goofy smile I'd fallen for years ago. Besides, I have 4 years of back child support to make up for. Despite everything, I laughed. You're ridiculous. I'm in love with you. Same thing. He kissed me then, soft and careful, like I might disappear if he pushed too hard, like we had all the time in the world to relearn each other. We didn't, but for those 2 hours we pretended. The next few months were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, media circuses, and carefully orchestrated revelations. Celine Bartlett's investigation went public, and the evidence against Stephen was damning. Financial fraud, witness tampering, abuse of power. The list went on. He was arrested, stripped of his titles, and became the first Valdorian royal to face criminal charges in a century. The media had a field day, but the real storm came when I appeared in court to testify about my relationship with Alex, about Stephen's threats and manipulation, about why I'd fled with my daughter. They tried to discredit me, called me a liar, a gold digger, a terrible parent, dragged up every embarrassing moment from my past and displayed it for the world to see. But this time I wasn't alone. Alex sat in the courtroom every single day, a silent show of support. His sister Catherine, surprisingly, released a statement condemning Stephen's actions and calling for a full investigation into how the royal family handled my case. Even King Henrik, furious about the scandal but pragmatic about the political realities, was forced to acknowledge that mistakes had been made. The custody battle never materialized. Alex's lawyers were too good, the evidence of the family's persecution too clear. Instead, we negotiated a compromise, joint custody, with Lily living primarily with me but spending regular time with Alex. Most importantly, no one could take her from me. The day the verdict came down, guilty on multiple counts, I sat in that courtroom and watched Stephen being led away in handcuffs. He looked at me once, hatred burning in his eyes, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just exhaustion. It was over. Daddy, watch this. Lily stood at the top of the playground slide, her dark curls wild in the wind, eyes sparkling with excitement. Alex, sitting on the bench beside me, waved enthusiastically. I'm watching, sweetheart. She slid down with a squeal of delight, and I watched Alex's face transform with pure joy. This was his favorite thing now, these simple afternoons at the park, watching our daughter play like any normal family. Except we weren't normal. Would never be normal. 6 months had passed since the trial ended. 6 months of slowly rebuilding our lives, figuring out what co-parenting looked like, navigating the bizarre reality of dating a prince as a single parent. We'd agreed to take it slow, to focus on Lily, on giving her stability after years of chaos. But slow was hard when every cell in my body wanted to be close to Alex, wanted to recapture what we'd lost. She has your fearlessness, Alex said, watching Lily attempt the monkey bars. Terrifies me daily. She has your stubbornness. Try getting her to eat vegetables. He laughed, and the sound still did things to my chest. Team effort. Deal. Lily ran over, breathless and flushed. Daddy, can we get ice cream? Does Papa agree? Alex looked at me, and I saw the question beneath the question. Are we okay? Is this working? Ice cream sounds perfect. We walked to the nearby shop, Lily between us holding both our hands, chattering about her day at preschool. Alex listened with absolute attention, asked questions, made her laugh. He was good at this, better than he'd probably expected. Better than I'd feared, during those lonely years when I'd convinced myself Lily was better off without him. I have something to tell you both, Alex said as we sat with our ice cream. He looked nervous, which immediately put me on edge. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I've been thinking about my role in the family, about what I want my life to look like. He took a deep breath. I'm stepping back from royal duties. I nearly dropped my cone. What? Not completely. I'll still attend major events, fulfill basic obligations. But I'm removing myself from the line of succession. Formally, Catherine will be queen, her children will follow. I'll be the spare who never has to worry about being anything else. Alex, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He looked at Lily, then at me. I spent 4 years in hell, Ian. 4 years thinking I'd lost you both forever. I'm not wasting another minute on obligations that don't matter. I want to be present. For Lily's childhood. For us. For whatever our future looks like. Your family. We'll deal with it. Catherine supports the decision. My father is less thrilled, but he'll come around. And honestly, I don't care if he doesn't. Alex reached across the table, took my hand. I choose this. I choose you. Both of you. If you'll have me. Lily, bless her, chose that moment to announce she needed to use the bathroom, completely oblivious to the weight of the conversation happening around her. I'll take her, I said, needing a moment to process. When we returned, Alex was still there, still waiting, still looking at me like I was everything. It's not going to be easy, I said quietly as we walked back to the park. The media will always be watching. Your family will always have opinions. People will always judge us. I know. And I'm still figuring out how to be a parent, let alone how to be in a relationship again. I know that too. And I can't give you the fairy tale ending. The perfect royal romance where everything works out perfectly. Alex stopped walking, turned to face me. Lily was ahead of us, chasing pigeons, so we had a moment of relative privacy. I don't want a fairy tale, Ian. I want reality. The messy, complicated, imperfect reality where we fight sometimes and struggle sometimes and don't always get it right, but where we get to be together, where I get to wake up and know that you and Lily are part of my life. That's all I want. That's all. Well, maybe someday I'd like to wake up next to you specifically, but I'm willing to work up to that. I laughed despite myself. You're impossible. I prefer charmingly persistent. He smiled that goofy smile. So what do you say? Want to give us another chance? I thought about everything we'd been through. The pain and the loss and the years of running. The fear and the anger and the loneliness. But I also thought about Lily's laughter. About Alex's patience as he learned to braid her hair. About the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. Like I was something precious. Yeah, I said. Let's try. He kissed me then, right there in the park with Lily and the pigeons and probably a dozen camera phones capturing the moment. And I didn't care. 2 years later. Ian, have you seen Lily's ballet shoes? Checked the closet. Top shelf. Found them. I smiled at the sound of organized chaos from upstairs. Saturday mornings had become a production now that we all lived together. A renovated townhouse just outside central Lysander. Far enough from the palace for privacy. Close enough that Lily could visit her grandmother without a major expedition. Yes, grandmother. King Henrik had softened surprisingly once he met Lily. Hard to maintain your stern disapproval when faced with a 6-year-old who looks exactly like your son and isn't afraid to tell you your crown is crooked. Papa. Daddy's making me wear the pink tights. I want the purple ones. The purple ones are dirty, sweetheart. But they're my favorite. I climbed the stairs to find Alex kneeling in front of our daughter, patiently explaining the concept of laundry, while Lily crossed her arms in perfect imitation of royal stubbornness. Your papa has a point, I said. Plus, pink matches your leotard better. But purple is prettier. How about we wash the purple ones tonight, so they're ready for next week? Lily considered this, then nodded. Okay, but you have to promise. I promise. Alex helped her into her shoes, then stood, ruffling her hair. Go grab your water bottle. We leave in 10 minutes. She ran off and Alex collapsed dramatically against me. How do you make parenting look easy? I don't. You just see my greatest hits. You missed the tantrum about breakfast earlier. The cereal incident? The cereal incident. We'd gotten better at this. The daily routines of family life. The negotiations and compromises and learning to be partners again. It hadn't been smooth. We'd had fights about parenting styles and boundaries and how much to shield Lily from media attention. But we'd worked through it. Together. How's the book coming? Alex asked as we watched Lily practice her ballet poses in front of the mirror. The book. My therapist's idea, a way to process everything that had happened. I've been writing it for a year now. The whole messy story of how I fell in love with a prince and almost lost everything. Almost done. Publisher thinks it'll sell well. And you're okay with that? With everyone knowing our story. They already know parts of it. Might as well set the record straight. I leaned against him. Besides, someone needs to tell the truth about fairy tales. Which is that they're not real. That love isn't some magical solution that fixes everything. That happy endings take work and compromise and choosing each other every single day even when it's hard. Alex wrapped his arms around me. That's pretty cynical for someone who's living with a prince. That's realistic for someone who learned the hard way that titles don't matter. What matters is finding someone who sees you, really sees you, and chooses you anyway. Getting sappy on me, Graham? Maybe. You going to make fun of me for it? Never. He kissed my temple. I'm going to write it down so I can use it in my wedding vows. I froze. What? Alex pulled back just enough to look at me, and there was mischief in his eyes but also something deeper. Something serious. Ian Graham, will you marry me? You can't just. That's not how proposals work. Why not? I love you. You love me. We have a kid together. We live together. We've survived family drama and media circuses and my brother trying to destroy us. Seems like marriage is the next logical step. That's the least romantic proposal I've ever heard. Good thing I have a backup plan then. He dropped to one knee, pulled a box from his pocket. Ian Graham, you are the most stubborn, infuriating, wonderful person I've ever met. You've given me a daughter who terrifies and amazes me daily. You've shown me what it means to fight for what matters, to protect the people you love even when the world tells you to give up. You've made me better, braver, more myself than I ever thought possible. I don't want a fairy tale. I want mornings arguing about purple tights. I want midnight feedings and messy dinners and growing old together watching Lily become whoever she's meant to be. So will you, for the second time, take a chance on this ridiculous prince and marry me? The ring was simple. Gold band, small diamond. Nothing ostentatious. Perfect. Daddy's proposing. Lily shrieked from the doorway, where she'd apparently been watching. Say yes, Papa. Say yes. Were you in on this? I asked her. He asked my permission, she said proudly. I said yes, but only if I can be flower girl. I looked at Alex, still on one knee, still holding that ring, still looking at me like I was his whole world. This is crazy, I said. I know. The media is going to lose their minds. Probably. Your family is going to have opinions. They always do. And marriage won't fix everything. We'll still fight, still have bad days, still struggle with all the complicated logistics of our weird life. I'm counting on it. He smiled. So is that a yes? I pulled him to his feet, kissed him in front of our daughter and whoever might be watching from outside. Yeah, that's a yes. Lily cheered. Alex slipped the ring on my finger. And somewhere in that moment, I realized that this was my happy ending. Not because everything was perfect. Not because we'd solved all our problems or because being with Alex had magically fixed my life. But because we'd chosen this. Chosen each other. Chosen to build something real in a world that kept insisting fairy tales were the only stories worth telling. My name is Ian Graham. I got lost in a strange city and fell in love with a prince. I lost him, found him, lost him again, and fought my way back through hell to be here. This isn't a fairy tale. It's better. It's real. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the story, tell us your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Until next time, keep daydreaming in BL.